Dory, and that actually bridges nicely into our desire to defend the prequels. Because why don't you talk a little bit about our theory as to why it is that people don't like the prequels after having started with 4 through 6?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for it. If you ask a bunch of people, you're going to get a lot of different reasons as to why they don't like the prequels. But from you're going to get the Jar Jar Binks haters, of course. He was only big in episode one, so let's pump the brakes on that one. But really, it's harder for people to fall for the story that goes to the dark instead of the one that goes to the light. And what George Lucas did by bringing in 4, 5, and 6 first is he introduced the good side of the story before the dark one. And I think that's a big reason why people struggle with it, because and I jump to Marvel movies is as kind of the alternative rhetoric to the prequels, because you're always seeing the superhero, the conflict that he goes through with the villain, and ultimately the hero wins, the villain loses, and then you have sequel upon sequel of a hero having a villain and defeating that villain. So I feel like that's what a lot of people look for, and that's just not what you get with Star Wars. So you have to be a unique moviegoer and have a unique appreciation for stories like this that don't always end the way you want to see things end.
I mean, because my overall thought is that the two halves of the 6 movies, and we'll get to the Disney ones later. That's a whole other subject. The two halves of the 6 movies are almost they're almost opposites.
Totally, they're polar opposites.
So like, because in 4 through 6, it is very traditional. It's very the good guy. It's the good guys versus the bad guys. The good guys are good. The bad guys are really bad. Albeit there are obvious hints there with Luke about is he going to become the next Vader, because you can his character is sort of an obnoxious teenager, had some of the faults that were in Anakin.
Yeah, you can see it play out, especially in 5 when he's being trained by Yoda and he's got all these doubts about himself, about him being able to lift the X-wing fighter out of the swamp, or when he's in the hut with Yoda and he's trying to say, I'm ready, train me, I'm ready," and Yoda's pumping the brakes, saying, "Just slow down now." Luke's a very bold character. He's somebody who wants all the answers right now. You can see it right away with Uncle Owen trying to keep him in Tatooine, but Luke saying, "I want to go do this, I want to go do this, I want to go and be with my friends and go out in space, leave Tatooine." And that's where you see similarities between him and Anakin. They're both very ambitious characters. And that's why it's so easy to fall for characters like this as fans, because we can relate to that. We all have things that we want to do. We want all the answers now. We want to succeed really all at once, but it's not about that. It's about a gradual process of growth. And you see that gradual process of growth come to fruition in 6. You can see how wise he is in 6, the way that he's talking to Vader, his dad, in the fight scene, how he's really come full circle. And that's an encapsulating of a story as you could ever imagine in a specific character. And that's why I say Star Wars is great, because of the characters more so than anything else, and the kind of conflicts they had to go through. Luke is just one example. You could point to dozens of characters that have certain things going on with them within the movies and the television shows that come out.
And each of these is, I mean, really, I guess you're right. If you think about all of the major characters from all 6 episodes, because Luke and Anakin are kind of, they face the same conflict and the same tests and trials, and it's a really fascinating way Lucas lines them up and shows how what happens when one falls to the dark side and one chooses the light side, and how that plays out for them, and then how one ends up redeeming the other in spite of the, and that father son dynamic too is just something, it's very relatable. And the idea that a father's love for his son is so powerful that it can even overcome a man, the darkness within a man who has completely abandoned himself to evil and destruction and hate.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like Vader's willing to, you know, hurt his son, you know, cut his son's arm off in episode 5, but when someone else starts to touch his son, oh, now you cross the line, Emperor Palpatine. You know, it's like it's such a great story. I mean, and I could only imagine it coming out in the theaters. I don't remember I don't remember what year did Episode 5 come out.
Like, I want to say like 79, I think, maybe 81.
I mean, could you imagine being in the theater when Darth Vader's revealing to Luke that he's his father? I mean, that scene, I remember it as a kid just being blown away, just sitting back in my chair, being so shocked. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to think after that scene because the whole show to me was so simplistic. It was Luke's the good guy, Han's a good guy, Obi-Wan's a good guy, and is the evil guy that's got this army of stormtroopers and they're all bad. But then when that moment happens, you see a human side of Vader that you hadn't seen before. Before you had just seen him as this dark villain that eventually is going to be stopped, hopefully. But you know, it just added such a twist to it, which I think really pulled me further into Star Wars and made me more intrigued by the movies.
So, are we maybe sensing a theme here that this dichotomy between the two halves is not actually as strong as it appears initially, and it we think in these terms as fans or people like me who are at least interested in it, more. I guess I count as a fan. I talked about this a bit, but
No, you're a fan. You're a bigger fan than most supposed fans that I try to talk to.
um, I guess maybe I just compare it to my love of Trek, and but I that's that I guess that's I've been a Trekkie since my Trek history is very much like yours. I watched the Next Generation, the original reboot series from the '90s. I remember watching the like fan tribute episode in '94 at my cousin's house. So it's we have similar histories with our franchises, but